Bye.
Good evening, and welcome to Community Issues, a tapestry of concerns. For those of you who have tuned in the past, you know my name, Alyce Smith Cooper. And for those of you who really know me, you know that when you see this hat, that a story is coming. I was made aware many years ago of the people of Zimbabwe. It was said that they were the people who brought and have kept this instrument alive for us, known as kalimba, or imbira, or African thumb piano. But the truth of the matter is that the instrument was given to the people, wherever we find it. It was given to the priests, and the priests would sit, play the instrument, according to the Spirit. And in return for playing the instrument, the Spirit would bring forth prophecy, bring forth stories for the people to live by, to be guided by, to be directed by. And you know, it's no different today. We're still in need of those who are willing to commit themselves to enough silence, enough quiet, enough meditation and prayer, if you will, to hear the voice of Spirit. I've committed myself to that. You know me as a storyteller. Some people know me as a minister. Some people know me as a healer. It doesn't really matter what you know me as. Some people know me as grandmother or great-grandmother, daughter, cousin, sister. We all have lots of roles. But in my role as storyteller, I'm given the privilege of being able to tell the stories that come from Creator's mouth to your ears. And we live in a time of change, tremendous change. There's always change, no matter what time we live in. There's always history being made. But at this particular point in history, it's as though we are on a spiral. And we keep coming around the spiral, climbing Jacob's ladder, if you will. We are climbing Jacob's ladder, but it's a spiral. And we come to the same place on the spiral if we're going to move on up higher. But it is higher. For instance, I have lived long enough to have been denied a hot dog at the 5 and 10 cent store lunch counter. Lived long enough to be told that I could only be a maid or a water carrier or a wood hewer or some low person on the socioeconomic scale. Lived long enough to be told that I could not learn, would never have any power or influence in this culture. That was what I was told growing up. But I've lived long enough to see someone who looks like me be inaugurated as the 44th President of the United States. Change. Changes that we thought we would never ever see. And how did they come to be? They came to be because people like you, your parents, me, my foreparents, and in some cases our children have made sacrifices to keep us moving on that spiral, coming up that mountain. And what's at the top? What's at the top of the mountain? What is it that we're climbing toward? Well, let's try equality for one thing. Equal opportunity to be the very best that we can be. To have the opportunity to develop ourselves, to have the opportunity to be encouraged to develop ourselves, to not be told that we are not capable, not able, and be denied access, but to be encouraged, to be mentored, in some cases, to be ushered in to a place of higher exposure to compassion. You thought I was going to say higher learning, didn't you? Well, it is higher learning. It's higher conscious learning. You see, it's not just being able to be recruited into one of the Ivy League colleges or the 10 top universities, or given a job in one of the Fortune 500 companies, or winning a contract for a great movie, or being an athlete, or any of the high profile things that we think about as being successful. What it's really about, not that those things aren't important, then they can happen for some people, but for everyday folk like you and me and my family and friends, it starts with opening our hearts to be human beings, to be compassionate, to be passionate, to be loving. Not talking about the kind of MTV love that gets flashed on us. I'm talking about the kind of appreciation for self and for life that was born into us. When you see a newborn baby, a healthy baby, and they open their eyes and their mouth to smile and to coo and to gurgle, what does your heart do? I know what mine does. It goes, opens. That's what we were intended to be. That love, that compassion, that pure joy that comes from simply being. That's our birthright. All these other things come in between. Career and relationships and class and culture and all the things that we braid into our tapestry. But finally, the whole layout is intended to give a vehicle to that eternal love that flows from Creator through us. So you say, well, that's fine for you, preacher. You know all about that theological stuff and you can do that. Not so. It doesn't come from theology. It comes from, is there an ology? Humanology? Is there such a thing as a study of being human? I think there is. We watch children at play. Yes, they squabble. They want what each other has. They'll fight each other to the point of practically annihilation. And then the next minute, they're holding hands, their arms are locked one in another, and they're off for their peanut butter and jelly sandwich or whatever it is that gives them joy. And they will share it, even after having been so angry with one another long before. And if you ask them what they were mad about, they'll tell you, he made me mad, but I don't remember why. What an incredible life lesson. If we could but forgive the hurt that we do to one another, and remember that it is not our life. It's not our life. Whatever has been done, whatever has been said, if it has not taken our life, it is not our life. But we do have to grieve the losses. We do have to grieve the losses in our lives. I have a theory. I could be wrong, because I'm just a storyteller, and I could be wrong. But I think that so many of the people that are in our prisons today, or imprisoned by their own mindsets and their own habits and addictions, are people that were not allowed an opportunity to grieve their losses. And you may be thinking, well, I nobody in my family ever died. No, that's not what I'm talking about. For many of us, there are people in our families, close people, who have died. Some of them violently. No chance of understanding why. But for some of us, it may be that we've lost status in life. Many of us these days have lost homes that we were in for many, many years. That is a loss. Loss of relationships, loss of health. But for so many of the young people in our prison system, they have lost loved ones, friends, people that they grew up with, young. Most of the young people that in our prison systems today, and many of them that are not, have been to more funerals in their young lives than most of us have been into our senior years. And those were funerals of young people that they grew up with who died violently. Or they may not have had an opportunity to grow up with parents. So they grieve the loss of that experience. But when do we give them an opportunity to express their grief? When do we say it's okay to be angry because you're hurt, but don't hurt someone else because you're angry? When do we introduce them to their creativity and allow that to help them work through the grief? I've had an opportunity to receive letters from inmates. And almost always, if I'm receiving the letters for any length of time, they may start out written, but then they end up with words but with pictures. Incredible artwork. And you ask these young people when they come out of prison, well, what happened to your artwork? Well, I don't have time for that anymore. Well, what happened to the poems that you wrote? I'm too busy to do that. But in your artwork and in your poetry and in the stories that you told, the songs that you created, was so much passion. So much was released as a result of your being able to be creative. So you're behind prison doors, out on a farm somewhere, you got time. I submit to you that you have time right now. No matter where you are, behind prison doors or imprisoned by your telephone. If you put down your phone for a few minutes a day, I submit to you that you could probably have completed at least one poem in the course of a week. You may even be creative on your text, but who else receives it? Who else experiences it? Do you get a chance to go back and experience the passion that you expressed? I don't have anything against texting. It's the only way I can talk to my grandkids. But how are you using it to progress your soul? Because believe it or not, that's all we're here to do. Oh, you say, oh, storytelling, now you done gone way off the track now. But I'm telling you the truth. The reason that we are here is not to grow these bodies. These bodies are simply a vehicle in which our spirit lives. I call it my earth envelope. It's the envelope that my soul lives in. And it will fail. Oh, as hard as I've tried, I didn't want to get arthritis. And I sure didn't want my eyesight to fail, and I don't like the fact that I don't hear as well as I used to, and my joints sure don't work like they used to. That's this earth envelope. But I can assure you, because I have put it to the test, my soul has grown. You can't tell me I ain't 18 and fine as wine in my spirit. But that's because I've worked at it. And that's what I want to encourage you to do. I want to encourage you to paint your pictures, write your operas, create your television channels, internet sites, whatever it is that you have at your fingertips to create with. You may say, well, I don't have nothing but some dirt and some water. Well, then be a sculptor. There's something around you that will allow you to get your feelings into it and mold something that's bigger and more expressive than what you have been able to be by yourself. And it's not just that I'm talking to people who may be incarcerated. I don't even know if anybody incarcerated can see this show. But sometimes we're incarcerated by our own thoughts. The limitations that we have placed on ourselves. Now, it isn't that other people haven't helped us. Because folks sure will tell you, you ain't nothing. You ain't never gonna be nothing. You ain't never been nothing. Your daddy wasn't nothing. Your mama wasn't nothing. In fact, your grandpapa wasn't nothing. Folks will try to tell you that stuff. And unfortunately, because we hear it, and it goes to our heart, sometimes we believe it far too long. And you know what? Even if it was the truth, it doesn't mean that you have to buy it. It doesn't mean that you have to believe it. It doesn't mean that you have to be restrained and constrained and made smaller because of what someone else has said about you. Trust me, you really do have the ability to change your mind. If you don't believe me, go back to the sandbox, watch the little children playing. They will tell you in a heartbeat, she took my marbles, and she's not going to be my friend no more. Or, he ate my sandwich. I'm mad at him. And give them 10 minutes. Their minds have changed. They've forgotten that and moved on to the next thing. And the next thing was something that was more joyful than what they could have gotten stuck in. It is a way to live your life. Find the joy. Find the peace. And I know it's hard. Folks might be fighting around you. Things that may be happening to you that you don't like, don't understand, can't abide by. But there is a way out that is more joyful than what you're experiencing and will not hurt you and hurt others. There is a way to live your life in harmony and in balance with nature and with the people around you. Well, you say, well, storyteller, that's easy enough for you to say. You're an old woman now and you've lived your life, and it was different for you then than it is for me now. You're right. It was a different world. But the difficulties were still there, and they loomed large. But what I learned how to do was look around and see what other folks were doing. And it didn't matter to me what color they were. Miss Espinosa next door was making tortillas by hand and cooking them on the eye of the stove, gas stove. She packed that masa out, throw that tortilla on there, turn it over with her bare hands, and pretty soon you had a stack of tortillas. I stood right by her side, watched her. She didn't let me have no masa because they didn't have nothing to spare. But I could do this, and I could do that, and make believe that I had a tortilla at the end. It was the same if I went around the corner to Mrs. Wong's grocery store. I could watch her husband cleaning up the vegetables to be set out, to be sold. And I watched him take the dead leaves and throw them to the side. Those were for the rabbits that they had in the back. And then I watched him take some leaves that weren't as pretty and put them in a pot. Then I watched him take the finished article and put it out to sell. And I asked him, I said, Mr. Wong, what you gonna do with those leaves in the pot? He said, oh, that will be dinner tonight. Nothing wastes. We have to learn how to not waste so much. We waste our time doing things that will give us back nothing. We waste our money on things that will give us back not much. We waste our feelings on soap operas. People get involved in what, I don't even know their names anymore, but it's the same people on the same shows doing the same nasty stuff. And they've been doing it for years and years and years. And people are involved in that. Got energy to it. And there's someone who is sleeping under a bridge tonight who could use just a little bit of that passion, just a little bit of that concern. We waste things. We waste people. We waste experiences. This is a learning opportunity. Right here. Don't change the dial. I only got a couple more minutes. You may as well finish listening, because what I have to tell you is absolutely from my heart. If I could reach out and just grab you and give you a big old hug and whisper in your ear, I would say this: whatever you do, don't give up. See yourself as the Creator sees you. You were created beautiful. You were created whole. You were created with purpose. And that doesn't mean you're perfect, because we don't get that. But what we get is the package that is us. And in that package, I trust and believe. And I ask you to trust me. There is something magnificent to be drawn forth. You may have to dust it off. It's like a diamond. You know, you dig it up out the ground, it's got dirt on it. It doesn't look like much except a kind of a nasty looking rock unless you know what's inside. So you gotta wash it off. You gotta get the dirt off. You gotta lay aside the things that are not going to sparkle. Like hatred and anger and malice and unbelief and lack of joy. Those are the things that have to be laid aside. But because a diamond started out as a piece of coal and it had to be pressed down with such pressure, like the kind that life will bring you when you don't think you can make it through. But in the end, what exists is the most valuable gemstone in the mineral kingdom. Harder than the rest, able to withstand more than the rest, and will reflect the light like none other. That's what's inside. That's who we really are. And I just submit to you for your conversation and for your consideration that at some point in time you might just need to write yourself a little note. Let yourself know how much you've grown today, how much you have figured out something about life today that made you lighter, made your feet want to move a little faster, made you want to praise Creator a little more. Something inside of you longs to be expressed, and to be expressed in a positive way. And trust me, there's plenty in this world that needs to be done by people who are positive and feel empowered and compassionate and loving. And you are all of that. I know you are. I just absolutely know it. I don't have to see your face. I may never, ever see you. But I know with the heart of a storyteller that there's greatness inside of you. And I can't wait to see how you bring it out. And that's what the old priests used to do when they played this instrument. The visions would come forth, the people would hear them, and the people grew. So I hope that as you hear this story, that you have an instrument, even if it's only your heartbeat, that lets you hear the wisdom from within. But what do I know? I'm just a storyteller. And besides, I stepped on the nail bent, and that's the way the story went. Alyce Smith Cooper, Community Issues, a Tapestry of Concerns. I'm glad you were with us tonight. I hope you stayed for the whole story because it was all about you and all about God's love for you. Many blessings to you. Have a wonderful evening, wonderful week, wonderful life. Don't forget to tell someone that you love them.